So this is going to be a video showing you some Qigong exercises that are specific to regulating the liver and gallbladder energies, which are the energies which are very pronounced during the springtime. What we notice in acupuncture practice, Chinese medicine practice, is that during the spring, there's normally a big rush of liver gallbladder energy for people, and this can manifest sometimes in headaches, sometimes in sciatica, because the headache pathway, the sciatica pathway, is all part of the gallbladder acupuncture channel. Sometimes this can manifest as a breaking free out of frustration or a buildup of frustration. The springtime is universally, recognized as a time when we're moving from the quiescence and the storage energy of the winter into the sprouting forth of life. And so inside the body, that sprouting forth of life is expressed in the green force, in the plant force, which we see in traditional Chinese medicine related a lot to the liver and the gallbladder and the energy channels of the liver and the gallbladder. Have to understand that when we're thinking about organs in traditional Chinese medicine, we're talking about organ systems that have multiple overlapping levels. So, for example, with the green force system, the wood system, the liver system, you've got a manifestation at every chakra level of the green force. So, for example, there's the genital energy, which very much corresponds to the liver and gallbladder, and then there's the energy right at the base of the belly, the lower dantian, which the power of which expresses the pulsatile quality of the liver and gallbladder. Liver and gallbladder, especially the liver, is responsible for the free flow of qi, the free movement of energy, and so it's responsible for this kind of pulsing, inward, outward moving kind of energy. Then we see the liver gallbladder expressed definitely at the solar plexus, and also physically, because right here we've got the sort of crossing over energy, liver, gallbladder to pancreas. And we see it expressed in the heart, in the center of the chest, where traditionally there's been an understanding in many cultures of the green force that expresses in compassion, as green Tara, for example, or as Hildegard von Bingen, the 12th century European mystic, described it, the greening power of Christ, or the green Christ that lives in the chest. Then we have an expression of this liver gallbladder energy at the throat, which is self-expression. And in Chinese medicine, we see how often the throat isn't, and its various syndromes can tell us about or be an expression of the imbalance of the liver and gallbladder energies. And we have its expression at the third eye region, and the power of the liver in ancient Chinese understanding is Molu, which is to be able to see the whole picture and gather from it the pertinent sort of information and then take action. This is like a management skill. And the eyes have long been understood in Chinese medicine to be a strong reflection of the liver energy. And then we see it manifested at the crown. The liver acupuncture channel travels right up to the top of the head. It's the only acupuncture channel that really does. And so when we look at this idea in traditional Chinese medicine, if we go a little deeper into it than is perhaps expressed in most of the literature, we see that there are 4 elements in Chinese medicine: fire, water, air, and earth, which you could sort of think of in a way as not quite alive in the way that we understand living things. And then you have the green force, the wood force, which is actually in some ways the summation of those other 4 forces. It's drawing from the other 4 forces, and it's expressing living biological systems, plants and animals and so on. So when we understand wood in that light, then, and we understand how wood expresses at each of these what we could, in the Vedic system, what's called chakra levels. They're not called that in the Taoist system, but in the Taoist system, there are these gateways between the different dantian, the different sort of energy processing centers of the body. We can see how you can emblemize these energies according to, say, the stages of a tree, where for the roots, the root chakra, you have literally the roots of the tree, and then sort of coming up the spine, you've got the trunk of the tree, and then down the limbs, you have the limbs of the tree, and then the twigs of the tree, and then expressing out into leaves, expressing out into flowers. And so the top of the head is known in many traditions, cross-traditionally I would say, as this place where the 1,000-petal lotus opens, or where there's an opening of energy, sort of flowering outwards. So we've got this movement from root to trunk to limb to branch to twig to leaf to flower to seed, right? And in one of these Qigongs that I'm going to show you, we're going to go through, the Qigong takes you through those stages of the development of the life force energy as expressed in a tree, for example. So in the springtime, this life force energy is really vibrant, really kind of sprouting up from the ground and sprouting up in nature and sprouting up in our bodies. And so it's very useful to regulate this energy, to support this energy carefully, because it can easily lead to explosive outbursts. Now, when we look astrologically, we can see how the movement from winter to spring is a movement from Pisces to Aries. It's the end of one whole cycle, and it's a cycle of introspection and inward turning and storage in the winter to this expression, this upward moving expression of energy in the spring. So at the moment, what you can also see in the sort of the energy field of the whole planet is a particular upsurge of that energy, connected also to astrological cycles, because we've got a Mars-Saturn kind of combination, a Mars-Pluto combination. So we're seeing a lot more anger acted out, hostility acted out on the world stage. And the afflictive energy of the liver gallbladder system is anger, frustration, and rage. And the redemptive energy of the gallbladder liver system is compassion, self-compassion, compassion for others. So this springtime is a very useful time to work to release the anger energy, and also to cultivate compassion. Now, in the human body, especially in modern times, the liver gallbladder system tends towards overheating. It tends to create what we call in Chinese medicine a Shiaoan heat, a triple burning heat, and that heat tends to aggravate people. That's the heat of compression and frustration. Now, if you think about the idea that the liver gallbladder rules the free movement of the qi, of the energy, and you think about our modern lifestyle, which involves a lot of being inside a cubicle, you can see why frustration is building up. In a sense, what we're doing to animals with our factory farming and putting them in these little box containers, we're actually doing to ourselves as well. Because think about it, people commute to work and they're sitting, they're moving, but they're sitting in this little box and they're sitting down. They're not moving and swinging freely. And then at work, they're very often in a cubicle, sitting down, and then commuting back home, cubicle, sitting down, and then home, totally tired for lack of movement, and so sitting again. And our houses, just look at our houses are designed, compare our house to a traditional yurt, or traditional teepee, or one of the sort of structures that were so often round culturally are now all square. So the liver gallbladder energy wants free movement. In the most ancient book of traditional Chinese medicine, the Huangdi Neijing, there's a beautiful passage where he says, in the springtime, a man unties his hair knot and strolls freely. And this is this idea of freeing up your body and freeing up your movement. There are other passages in traditional Chinese medicine where they talk about in the springtime that it's important to stroll briskly, to take brisk walks, to kind of free up the energy. I think in modern times that would really just equivalent to, yeah, start exercising, start an exercise program, but also an exercise program that involves stretching. Now, in traditional Chinese medicine, we understand that the liver gallbladder energetic system rules the tendons and ligaments in the body. And so you can regulate frustration and you can regulate depression and aggravation by stretching the tendons and ligaments. This is probably in large part why yoga has actually, massively popularized and grown in our culture in the last 20, 30 years. It's because that stretching out, careful stretching out of the tendons and ligaments as they sort of clasp around the joints, frees up that energy, and the liver qi is endemically suppressed inside the modern human body. And it's springtime is where people will really both notice it and also where it tries to break out, tries to bust out and free itself. One piece of evidence that this is so is that there is this very famous Chinese herbal formula called Shiaoan, which means free and easy wanderer. Shiaoan was originally designed, according to some quotes from ancient sources, for the third wife and the slave girls. So we're talking here about a large house where there's multiple wives and there are slaves. And Shiaoan was originally used to regulate menstrual imbalance and menstrual problems and infertility when they were connected to this feeling of being entrapped and frustrated and on the lower end of the pecking order and pushed down. So it's interesting to look at different countries and see what is their number one most sold traditional Chinese herbal remedy and what does that tell us about their culture. Well, in America, it's Shiaoan, which is the relaxed wanderer formula that is used for freeing up that stagnation. And we talked about how the liver qi shows up at each of these levels. And I forgot to mention when I went through those 7 levels that, of course, you have the genital level, but then you have the uterus prostate level. And then you have the digestive gallbladder level. So Shiaoan will help to free that up. But it's also really interesting that this formula to help free frustration from entrapment is the number one sold formula in the United States. Not actually so in other countries, but points to something. Okay, so I'm going to go through a series of Qigong exercises that are specific to freeing up the liver gallbladder energy.